621, 3000, climbing 6000.
When it comes to how much rest pilots are supposed to get,
340.
there's a difference between night
5,000.
and day.
13,000 landed.
Most of the overnight flights are cargo planes.
7 for 900,000.
Cincinnati has 130 cargo takeoffs and landings every 24 hours. CVG is a growing hub for DHL and Amazon. And for crews who fly primarily overnight, experts say it's potentially riskier.
Humans aren't 24/7. That's the basic disconnect right there.
Here at the National Transportation Safety Board in Washington, they have a list of most wanted transportation safety improvements, including reduce fatigue-related accidents. And that applies more realistically to people who work overnight, like cargo pilots, because the human body is simply not designed to work overnight.
The way it works in reality is that we know that circadian low in the 3-4 a.m. time frame creates a huge problem for us in terms of safety.
And 3 and 4 a.m. is exactly when cargo planes are flying,
Correct.
taking off, landing.
Correct.
Since 2014, government regulations have required passenger pilots to have a 10-hour minimum rest period before work, with the opportunity for 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep within that period. In other words, a proper amount of sleep plus time to get to or from the airport. But cargo pilots were left under the old regs, 8 hours off, sleep or not, and potentially 16 hours on, although not that many hours at the controls. Critics, including pilots' unions, call the exemption the cargo carve-out.
Well, cargo carve-out is one of the more onerous things that we deal with.
Spike Forsberg flies Boeing 767s for Southern Airways, a contractor for DHL, and makes frequent trips to Cincinnati. He says the cargo carve-out makes no sense.
We use the same airspace, we use the same instrument approaches, same runways, same taxiways, same terminal facilities. It's really absurd.
The new passenger plane regs came after the crash of a Colgan Airlines plane in Buffalo in 2009. 50 people died. The NTSB said the pilot's performance was likely impaired because of fatigue, and the airline did not proactively address pilot fatigue hazards. After that, the government imposed new pilot rest and duty regulations. But after lobbying by the cargo airline industry, cargo carriers were left out of the new rules. The industry argued those rules would add $450 million in costs, but not improve safety. The Federal Office of Management and Budget and the Federal Aviation Administration agreed. The NTSB did not, but the NTSB can only recommend, not impose. Safety Board member Christopher Hart told me the cargo carve-out was carved out by OMB following a cost-benefit analysis.
The primary thing it looks at is how many people were killed. And that's when only 2 people are killed in a cargo plane crash, as tragic as that is for those 2, it's not that plus 175 passengers. So,
well, there are people on board. I consider myself a person.
The NTSB and the cargo industry have significant safety disagreements. When the new rules were being considered, the NTSB chair said many of the fatigue-related accidents that we have investigated over the years involved cargo operators. And because of overnight flying, such operations are in greater need of the new requirements. But the Cargo Airline Association, an industry group, says since 1983, the NTSB only listed fatigue as a cause or contributing factor in 2 cargo plane accidents. And the industry says neither of those accidents would have been prevented by the new rest regulations anyway. The 2013 crash of a UPS cargo plane in Birmingham, Alabama shows the dispute. The 2 pilots flying overnight talked about fatigue, and they talked about the upcoming regulations which would cover passenger plane pilots, but not them. The conversation was captured on the airplane's cockpit voice recorder. Here's the exchange. Yeah, we need that too. I mean, don't get that, It should be one level of safety for everybody. It makes no sense at all. No, it doesn't at all. And to be honest, it should be across the board. To be honest, whether you're flying passengers or cargo or, box of chocolates at night. If you're flying this time of day, yep. The, fatigue is definitely, yeah. About an hour later, both pilots were killed when their Airbus A300 crashed on approach to Birmingham. The NTSB found several contributing causes, including The first officer's fatigue due to acute sleep loss resulting from her ineffective off-duty time management and circadian factors. But the investigation also said the main problem was what the first officer did with her off-duty time, not the amount. If the new regs were in effect at the time and cargo crews recovered, she would have gotten the minimum rest time required anyway.
So, now what? A legislative effort to apply the new passenger plane regulations to cargo planes failed in Congress. And the NTSB acknowledges it's unlikely that the current cargo plane rules are going to change. So, the board says it's up to cargo carriers to educate their pilots about the impact of fatigue. And it's up to individual pilots to manage their time off between trips, no matter how much time that may be.
Aviation, cargo aviation included, is extremely safe, but there is a difference between night and day.
Anybody who's flying and is fatigued is a danger to the skies, it's a danger to the airport, it's a danger to the people on the ground under them.
Jeff Hirsch, Local 12 News.